Hey everyone, it's Michael from NoteFolds, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this really great nature card here using the Moon Lake stamp set. And what's really great about this, these are 3 individual stamps, but you can see they don't bleed over each other. Really great technique called masking, and what you need is a Post-it note. Now, actually, these are a special Post-it note because the entire thing is sticky all the way down. So it makes it really easy to do this masking technique. Of course, you can use regular Post-it notes if you want. I recommend the Foley adhesive one, but let's go ahead and get started. To make this card, we're going to use 3 pieces of paper. I've got the standard A2 card base here, 5.5 by 8.5, scored right down the center, and this is in Mossy Meadow. And then we have 2 pieces of Whisper White, 5.25 by 4.25, one for the front of the card and one for the inside. As far as inks, we'll be using Hello Honey, that'll be our sunset background. Marina Mist, that'll kind of be our mid-ground lake. And then we have Mossy Meadow, that'll be our foreground. We're also going to be using some daubering tools here. You can use whatever is your favorite. As far as the stamp set goes, I chose Moon Lake, and the reason for that is we have a nice background stamp, a kind of mid-ground stamp, and a foreground stamp. So you want to pick something that's going to give you that nice depth effect. So we're going to begin by daubering onto one of our pieces of Whisper White. So I've got my daubering tool here, and this is the Hello Honey. I'm just going to get that nice and inked up. And we're going to dauber about half of this. So we're going to do from the top right down to about the center. And just use your favorite technique to dauber. Just a nice light touch on there. Okay, and that's going to be our sunset background. So the next color that we're going to do is our Marina Mist. That's going to be our mid-ground there. That's going to be the lake. So just get that out. Next daubering tool. Just get that nice and inked up. We're going to do kind of from the center down toward the bottom. You can go ahead and just do the whole thing all the way down to the bottom. Okay, and that looks pretty good for our lake. The last thing we're going to do is bring in the Mossy Meadow, and that's going to be for our foreground. We're just going to do a small strip of that along the bottom. It's going to be kind of the edge of the lake there. Okay, so there's the completed front piece. So let's go ahead and put that to the side. We'll bring in the inside part of the card. And we're just going to dauber around the edges with that Mossy Meadow. So just a nice light touch around there. We're not even going to re-ink it. That'll just add a little bit of depth and interest. And there we go. So I brought back in our front part of the card here, and I've got my Mossy Meadow open. We're going to start with our chickadee stamp. So we're going to start with whatever is the foreground. And you can see I have the Post-its over here on the left. So the first thing we're going to do is just get that chickadee nice and inked up so it looks good. And then we're going to stamp it right on the foreground so he's kind of sitting right there at the edge of the lake. Give that a nice press. And then we're going to just bring it right over the Post-it and stamp on there. We don't have to worry about getting a super clean image on there because we're going to be cutting that out next. So I've zoomed in a little bit here on the chickadee image, and what we're going to do is just take a pair of detail scissors here, and we're going to cut out all the way around, trying to get as close to the edges of this stamp as we possibly can, because this is going to be our mask. It doesn't have to be perfect, but let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so here you see that I've got the chickadee all cut out, and this whole back of this Post-it is nice and sticky. So now we're going to bring back in our front part of the card. We're going to just place that right over, getting as close as we can to the original image, because that's going to provide our mask so that when we stamp the mid-ground image, it's not going to stamp over top of what we already did. So I brought back in my Mossy Meadow ink. I've got my front part of the card here with the mask over the chickadee, and I've got another Post-it ready to go for our mid-ground image here, which is the Canada Goose. So we'll just go ahead and get that nice and inked up. That looks good. Then what we're going to do is place that down, and you're going to see that the mask will prevent the Canada Goose image from overtaking the chickadee. So take that off, and again we're just going to stamp off onto our Post-it so that we can make another mask. So now what will happen is when we remove this mask, you can see, well, this one didn't really need the mask too much, it doesn't look like, but again we made sure not to get anything over that. Now just like before with the chickadee, we're going to cut out the mask of our Canada Goose here. Again, we'll try to get as close to that stamp as possible. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now you'll notice that I left kind of a bit of a halo around there, and the reason for that is to make sure that the next image I stamp doesn't bleed too much directly into it. You'll see what I'm talking about when we stamp our background image. So again, we're just going to place that over here as best we can, trying to line it up with our previous stamp. Now for our final stamp here, we don't need to stamp it onto a mask or anything because it's our last image. So we're just going to get this inked up. Now of course if you had more than 3, you would need to be masking this one. Okay, that looks good. So again, we're just going to stamp this, and this is sitting kind of right on the water's edge. Now you can see how that stamp is going right over that mask, which is why it's very important that we did the mask before. So see how it's going right over our Canada Goose? That would have turned out pretty bad. But what's great is when we take off the mask, you can see that it retained that nice image of the Canada Goose there. And this is what I was talking about with that kind of halo effect. That way it's not bleeding directly into it. So I think that turned out pretty great. So I brought the card base back in. We've got our front part of the card. We've got the inside part of the card. The only thing left to do is to tape them together. So we're just going to take our snail adhesive and I'm just going to open that out. It's a little bit easier to attach if it's laying flat. We'll leave that nice 1/8 inch border around the card like we normally do. So there's our front, and now we'll do the inside. And again, leaving that 1/8 inch border. So you can see that daubering around the edges just kind of made it a little pop off the page a little bit more. So there we go. There's our completed card using the masking technique. I think this is a really nice card to make, and you can obviously, of course, put a sentiment on the inside there if you want to. Well, I hope you enjoyed making this card with me today. If you did, make sure to let me know about it in the comments below. Give this video a like and also hit subscribe so you can see my future videos. And if you need any of the supplies that you saw here in today's video, all you have to do is head over to notefolds.stampinup.net. Until next time, I'll see you later.